pandemic or not, especially all the talent they've lost this year alone, I am very proud to say I'm an NWA fan, and
That's
I'm
a good
very
point.
happy.
That's definitely a good
Yeah,
point. Good take, Tyler. And of course, I do agree the fact that Nick Aldis has been completely underrated in his role as NWA champion, even though
Definitely agree with that.
he's still with my betrothed,
we got to
Mickey
stay
J.
professional. Damn it, we're not getting flagged because you have issues. We're not doing this.
Even though he's with my
Stay
fine
professional, Randy.
Virgo. Backstage Brawl, everybody, what's good? You know, it's your boy, the People's Champion. Today, we're usually with a roast gallery of our usual suspects, but right now, it's just a gruesome twosome. To my left, of course, is my godbrother, Kid Ty, a.k.a. Mr. Christian, a.k.a. Mr. One More Match. And, of course, your boy, the People's Champion, a.k.a. his name is King on Instagram. Of course, my name is Randy Lewis. Guys, well, can't say guys because it's only two of us. Ty, it has been quite the week in professional wrestling. I would like to start by talking about something that's hit home for the WWE this week, the loss of Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson, of course, to those who are not familiar with Pat in this current generation, Pat Patterson was one of the most pivotal figures in WWE's history. He helped legit shape up the business. He was also the first, most notably, the first ever Intercontinental Champion that he won back in 1979. He's best known to many people who are prior to the Attitude Era as one of the members of the Stooges with Joe Briscoe, Vince McMahon's right-hand man, Stephanie's godfather. He's also known for so many things, especially the creation of the Rumble, the Royal Rumble, and the vouching for so many talents that's crossed through WWE for so many years. The Rock, especially, who's one of my favorite performers of all time, is always credited by saying Pat Patterson has had an incredible influence on his career and was one of the main reasons he wrestled under the WWE umbrella in the time that he did. So, Ty, your thoughts about the loss of Pat Patterson?
I honestly don't know what more to really say because Pat Patterson to me was a guy who I felt like he was one of those few characters. And I don't mean characters in the professional wrestling sense, but one of those few personalities in pro wrestling, especially behind the scenes, that from all accounts, there are very few people in the wrestling business who don't have someone who doesn't like them. Like in professional wrestling, you're used to hearing some people going, this guy's a really good guy, and other people going, nah, he has a pretty, a pretty big closet full of secrets and this and that. Other wrestlers who have kind of come to mind, in my opinion, would be like a Rey Mysterio, where it's like you rarely hear anyone say anything bad about Rey Mysterio. Same could have been said for The Undertaker outside of the DDP thing and however you politics and all that. But Pat Patterson, from all accounts, seemed to be universally liked. The fact that he vouched for many talents obviously won the respect and the trust of many talents, and he was considered to be a very creative individual, as you said. The fact that he was able to help shape the company alongside Vince, and I could see the influence that he had on other people as well, including someone like a Shane McMahon, just due to the fact that he was like Shane's always been considered one of the boys outside of just him also being part of Shane's family, but like a lot of the best people who've helped the company are people who know what it's like from the wrestler's perspective. And the fact that Pat Patterson, having been the legend that he was, he knew what a lot of the talent were already going through. He knew a lot of what their challenges were going to be. And especially in a company like the WWE that kind of prides itself more on being an entertainment company, prides itself on being more of that type of product, him coming from that professional wrestling age, really helped keep a lot of those talents sane when maybe they wanted to sign up to WWE to do one thing, but didn't realize they were being under the WWE umbrella to do another thing. So for me, I feel like someone like Pat Patterson and people like Pat Patterson are much more needed now than ever before. And it is a huge loss to the WWE. It's a huge loss to the professional wrestling world. He seemed like a really genuine diamond of a person. And I hope that we get to see more people like him down the road for the future of the business. And I hope that's where his legacy will take the rest of the business. Just the way that he conducted himself, the way that he helped people, the way that he was, the comedian that he was. And I really do hope that I know his legacy will live long. I hope his family finds some peace down the road, as well as the McMahon family, obviously extensions of his family. So I just hope that his soul rests in peace and that his legacy remains strong and extends to every talent that he touched, like their hearts over the years.
Yeah, this is a huge loss for WWE this week, and there's been a motif that's been a theme that, if you will, that's been going along the lines of describing Pat Patterson, that he did it his way, the flamboyance of who he was, unknowingly a pioneer of the LGBTQ community
Yes.
as well, and how natural he came off to certain people. He was one person that would vouch for people that Vince doesn't see as marketable or able to be presentable in his company. And he's fought for that for countless of years, for countless of guys backstage who, past, present, and currently. Pat was one of those guys that if he had something for you, it was to your benefit and to definitely help you grow as a professional in the business. And you see it all through around. Even recently watching, I was watching a couple videos yesterday off of Twitter, certain snippets of people talking about Pat in retrospect. Stone Cold issued some sentiments as well, talking about how, he was always with the boys. He was always backstage. Every time you passed your gorilla position, you can't just go back to your locker room without talking to Pat before talking to Vince. Pat will always give you that genuine feel, where it doesn't feel like it's a profession. It feels like it's more of a family. And he created that family environment backstage. And that's something that, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will miss. And another antidote before I pass it off to Big E. This, as much as the loss has impacted the wrestlers that he's touched, professionally and personally over his career and over his life, I don't think he touched the kind of lives as more than Vince McMahon's. And Vince, to my knowledge, I'm not sure if he has any siblings that, in terms of his story. But one thing I know for sure is that Vince saw Pat like a legitimate brother that he wished that he had growing up. And he looked out for him. He was like a big brother to him. He stuck with him through thick and thin and legitimately helped him build the company he brought from his father back in 1982. And every step of the way helped Vince shape the wrestling entertainment business the way it's become today. He's helped WWE become the titan that it is today. You hear Joe Briscoe talk stories about how close they were. Like they're the Three Stooges. They were like brothers. And to lose one of your brothers, I'm pretty sure it's heart-wrenching. It's tough. And it's very, very sad to lose someone that's been so close to you, that's been in the trenches with you through and through your highs, your lows, your greatest moments, your lowest moments. It's hard losing a loved one in that sense. And I'm pretty sure that Vince is definitely feeling it. And again, we do extend our condolences to the McMahon family as well, because he was definitely more than just a friend and a co-worker to Vince McMahon. He was family. Big E, we talked about this on our live in terms of Pat Patterson's loss, but to those who are watching our podcast today, as we record today, what would you like to add on in terms of Pat Patterson passing?
Well, we spoke about it. We spoke about it yesterday. the impact of Pat Patterson will live on forever. There is no Royal Rumble without Pat Patterson. There is no Intercontinental Championship without Pat Patterson. There's also none of the stars that we have today without Pat Patterson. You know, Dolph Ziggler doesn't get his push. Roman Reigns doesn't get the backstage talkings that he's been getting. You know, there's a lot of stars that owe it to Pat Patterson, and you know, Daniel Bryan also when he first got fired from WWE. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but the impact of Pat Patterson and who he is not only as a wrestler but also as a backstage writer and a backstage personality has helped a lot of the on-screen talent. And you saw the outpours from Twitter. You saw the outpours from, you know, people from like The Miz to Aleister Black to, you know, Roman Reigns, John Cena, The Rock. So this is definitely a huge loss. This is probably one of the biggest losses that WWE has taken in a very long time. Being that, you know, this is somebody with this much magnitude to them. So, you know, again, we just want to extend our condolences to, you know, the Pat Patterson family, to, you know, the McMahon family, to the WWE family, and to all the fans of Pat Patterson who were able to watch him as the Intercontinental Champion. So, you know, we definitely thank you for everything that you did, Pat. Definitely.
And
All
the
right, as
entire
we move
wrestling
on,
world, dude. It's been a
as we start this show with a somber note, let's kind of up it up a little bit. It's been a great week in wrestling, boys. So let's get into it.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, we can skip Raw because nobody care about Raw. But
Nah, nothing
one
happened
quick
on Raw.
antidote. One quick antidote for Raw, though. I will say this: it's about time AJ Styles gets another WWE Championship opportunity, and I'm glad him and Drew are going at each other. With that said, let's move on. NWA is back. NWA Shockwave premiered this past week. Guys, what were your quick takes from it? What were your takeaways from the returning NWA? Boys, you guys got the floor.
Listen, I'm gonna agree with Ty because we talked about this already.
No, I know
Camille
you're
does need work.
I know where you're going.
I'm gonna give Ty that. Camille does need work, but I loved the title match. The title match to start off Shockwave, the start of Shockwave. That title match was fire. I loved it. Mike Bennett did his thing, you know. Maria Kanellis did her thing in the ring. It was definitely a lot of storytelling going on. So, you know, Shockwave should be good for the, you know, the next incoming weeks. We should be seeing a lot of character development going on.
Your Ty?
So I have been a fan of the NWA for a long time. I like the NWA. I've loved its history as a governing body in professional wrestling. I love the old days of the territories and watching old school pro wrestling and seeing how it's different across the United States. How in some areas it was more entertainment oriented, in some areas it was more, you know, like grappling oriented. All the different legends that have run through the NWA championship, all the way from guys like Luthez, all the way down to guys like now Nick Aldis. And for me, I was a huge fan of Power. I was very happy with the 10 pounds of gold series when it first started because the NWA championship, my earliest introduction to it as a child was seeing it a part of TNA when TNA was part of the NWA's like trying to get back into the main television spotlight with the early NWA TNA days and the titles carrying over. You had the NWA actually innovating new championships like the X Division title that we have today and whatnot, right? So seeing NWA Shockwave was nice, you know, them working with the United Wrestling Network, which they've worked with for a while, you know, through Championship Wrestling from Florida, which kind of served as like an in-between. Like that was also an NWA show, but also served as a feeder system for Power once Power kind of came in. And it was nice seeing, you know, the ring, first of all, aesthetically looked amazing. The fact that it still kind of felt like a studio without having to be the same studio as Power. And not to compare it too much to Power, because Power had a lot of advantages, and obviously we can't do Power right now the way the world is. But I thought that, them using the archival footage from the recent events from the United Wrestling Network, using it for Shockwave to kind of rebuild some of the hype for the NWA was nice. They've been also continuing the 10 pound of gold series, which I don't think that's ever going to go away as long as they
No.
have that championship, which is a good thing, because most people, when they remember the NWA, if you can't remember every single territory, which no one expects you to, but you should go back and watch some of that stuff because it's still quality. You're going to remember the 10 pounds of gold. You're going to remember Sweet Charlotte, as Nick Aldis calls it. And I thought that the match with Mike Bennett wasn't bad at all. It's like, I'm happy for Mike Bennett. He's also recently returned to Ring of Honor to work with Matt Taven again. It
He's
feels
going through a renaissance.
And I like the fact that he's back there. I feel like the fact that he's trying to like get his name out there again. It was a great opportunity for him after getting released from WWE, and for Nick Aldis. Like, you have to put. I will say this in professional wrestling: everyone talks about the WWE Championship, the Universal Championship, the IWGP title. They talk about AEW's world title. Nick Aldis is a heavyweight champion of the world that does not get enough credit. With all the crown jewels in pro wrestling, just as there are crown jewels all throughout the fighting world, the NWA Championship is the longest reigning. It has been around longer than any other world title in existence at this point. And the fact that they tried to bring back its glory, and Nick Aldis has been a very, very impressive and appropriate representative for that title for the past couple years. And there have been some ups and downs. We've seen title changes happen. We've seen feuds come in and get cut off. But he doesn't get enough not enough champion. He deserves more gold. He doesn't get enough credit for how good of a world champion he's been. We've been giving a lot of credit to guys like Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns in the wake of the pandemic, all the hurdles they've gone through. This is a guy who's been representing the championship without even having a proper show for a good amount of his title reign. And he's made people care about singles matches off in China. He's been making people care about singles matches off in CZW and Ring of Honor before they had their own platform. NWA was kind of going back to its old ways of appearing in different promotions that aren't even tied to its governing body. So, like, the fact that he's been doing it very well, and holding it with pride and carrying it with a cadence that screams champion to me. I don't think he gets enough credit. I thought he had a pretty decent defense against Mike Bennett. Camille does need work, but
She does.
but she's great in the role that she's in, which is a good thing, and
She
she'll
is.
only learn over time. But whether it was him, introducing the stable and Power and everything that's gone on with all the struggles that the NWA has gone through, pandemic or not, especially all the talent they've lost this year alone. I am very proud to say I'm an NWA fan, and
That's
I'm
a good
very
point.
happy.
That's definitely a good point. Good take, Tyler. And of course, I do agree the fact that Nick Aldis has been completely underrated in his role as an NWA champion, even though
Definitely agree with that.
even though he's still with my betrothed.
We got to stay professional, damn it. We're not getting flagged because you have issues. We're not doing this.
Even though he's with my
Stay
fine
professional, Randy.
Virgo mate. All right. But Tyler did hit a point. He hit a point earlier in his take about collaborations. He used that word recently, partnerships as well. Speaking of partnerships, we might see a budding partnership. It might be a one-off, who knows? But as we move towards the following, the Wednesday Night Wars, obviously, was a big night for both NXT and AEW. But, of course, the way the news has shaken the wrestling world, AEW has seemed to win the Wednesday Night War for this past week for a multitude of reasons. Of course, you have Sting coming back. You have, Sting was one of the biggest reasons people would put their eyes on the show. But, of course, the main event as well. Jon Moxley finally lost the AEW championship to Kenny Omega, which for many people think it's about damn time. But the caveat is not just the championship win from Kenny Omega. It's the fact that Don Callis was a part of that match and part of the reason why Kenny Omega won. And towards the end of Dynamite, as it went towards the car, he said one thing and one thing only. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday. to Impact. It's going to be a must-watch show. For the first time in a very long time, like you said before, collaborations and partnerships. I thought to myself, AEW finally put their flag planted in the ground saying, okay, if we want to make a stamp by not crapping on WWE every week, we have to do it in a way that establishes us as different from them, as a different show to watch, an alternative. They did that last week, and they're transitioning into making a partnership with Impact. And from what I'm hearing, it might be a one-off, but it's intriguing enough to allow you to watch and tune into Impact if you really haven't already, especially over the last few months. You know, especially from the Black contingent, we are running things on Impact. But from Kenny Omega's perspective, him showing up to Impact is bringing a lot of AEW eyes to another product that they may be foreign to, or coming back to as well. So boys, what is your thoughts or quick takes in terms of AEW and Impact working together in this coming week?
With AEW coming in, this honestly it's a win-win for both sides, to be honest with you. If you really think about it, it's a win-win. It gets more eyes on Impact, which Impact isn't bad for anybody who feels like Impact is garbage. It's really not.
Heroes of the pandemic.
They picked it up during the pandemic.
To be honest with you, it really has. They picked up some big signings. You have the Good Brothers over there. Chris Bay was the X Division champion. You got Moose Willie Mack, for a week. Moose Willie Mack, Eric Young found himself back in Impact and is delivering.
Motor City Machine
Rich
Guns.
Swann.
Guns. There you go.
Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns. So there's like a lot of talent in Impact. And with AEW getting ready to, I guess, do a one-off crossover, I guess it's a trial run. Let's call it a trial run. A trial run, basically. It's interesting enough because most of these guys have worked together already. The Young Bucks have worked together with the Good Brothers. Kenny Omega has history with these guys. Basically, 80% of the Bullet Club is in both of these companies. So it's like when you put them together, it's something's going to happen. You're bound to have great TV. You're bound to have something. Now, another thing a lot of people don't realize that Kenny is also the AAA champion as well.
Yes, he is. Kenny two belts as well.
Yes, he is. So not only they're not acknowledging it on AEW TV, I don't think they're acknowledging it at all. But he is the AAA champion, just like Jon Moxley was the IWGP US champion, and he was the AEW World Heavyweight champion. So now you're seeing more of these cross-brand promotions going on, and don't be surprised if you see AEW, go primetime wrestling. Don't be surprised if you even see them reaching out to the indies as far as MLW, things of that nature, because it can happen, and they're bringing in talent from these other promotions.
I got something to say about that.
Kid Ty, your take, brother.
So this might be a bit of a tangent, but I'm just going to give a little history lesson. When you do crossovers and you're doing, like partnerships, like even to your essential YouTube partnership where you see people like working with each other and trying to help, boost someone else's, ratings, so to speak, versus, you see how it works. It's basically meant to give everybody a little bit of something in the deal, a little bit of attention, a little bit of eyes on their product. We've seen many different partnerships over the years. WWE had a partnership with New Japan a long time ago, which led to, the creation of the WWF Junior Heavyweight title held by Dynamite Kid and the original Tiger Mask and Tatsumi Fujinami. You've seen partnerships as recent as Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Noah, or Impact and Pro Wrestling Noah, WCW and New Japan, which allowed us to see people like Masahiro Chono and Keiji Muto as the Great Muta, and you saw Yuji Nagata, you saw Ultimo Dragon, you saw Shinjiro Otani, and you saw talents from WCW go over there for all their Super J Cups and for special events. You saw Too Cold Scorpio in Japan. I repeat, Too Cold Scorpio in Japan because of some of these partnerships.
I'll do you one better. Even Ring of Honor in New Japan. That was more recent.
That felt more like a parasitic relationship, but yes, that is a partnership. And there have been so many over the years. And one of the earliest thoughts that I had with AEW is that with all their ties to New Japan, they're bound to get a partnership with them or somebody at some point. And I think that it's smart for AEW to do that. But before I even get into that, one of the biggest reasons why this is a big deal is what you said. The fact that, you know, it's a big deal because it does separate AEW from WWE in a strong way. WWE wants the end of the territory system, like Vince McMahon trying to effectively end the territory system. He wanted to make it and condition fans to understand that the only pro wrestling you need to see or that you will see is from the WWE. They didn't want to acknowledge other promotions like that, and over the years that has waned. You know, in some cases with talents, they've mentioned where they've come from before. Even during Ruthless Aggression, there are times where JBL would mention the IWGP Junior title when talking to Chris Benoit, or even as recently as when Finn Balor had gone to the main roster. They mentioned his entire rap sheet as he was coming down the ramp his first time on Raw. You know, we've seen them mention it, but for the most part, even if they do mention it, WWE wants you to understand this is all you need to watch. You don't need to watch anything else. And we've seen WWE do partnerships in the past through NXT because Triple H has seeked them out with with ICW. We've seen it with I believe Progress. We've seen it with WXW. We've seen them going out there. They also did it with Evolve before they had tragically come to an end this year. So we've seen them do that too, but in those cases, it was more so like the rule is we're gonna buy you out straight up. Like we're gonna put it in the contract. We
Sit
have the right to
down.
buy you out, and we'll work with you. But if we can choose to buy you out at any point we want. This is more interesting because it's a legitimate partnership. It's not so much, oh, we already own you, but we're gonna keep you alive for our own purposes. It's more so AEW working with Impact is AEW trying to get more eyes on Impact while also having access to their talent, which means that we could see the beginning of a long-term partnership over time, even if this is a one-off.
I
Which
pose
means
a
if they
question. Sorry to cut you off. I
what's
pose
up?
a question. And I believe that it was a good question that I saw yesterday while watching the Talk of Champions podcast with Stan and Shantice. You should go watch their stuff. They're pretty funny. Yesterday, right? They posed a question, and I was thinking about it because I'm not gonna lie to you. When I found out about the partnership for Impact this week, I was excited. And then when they posed a question, and they posed the same question on our live yesterday, um, why are you doing this now when you still have talent that's in your company that you're not using currently because you're so top heavy with the elite? And it boggled my mind. I had to basically sit back and basically think about it. And then it was reiterated yesterday during their live on Instagram. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Yeah, you're kind of all right. It's like, listen, you still have talent that like Pac and Scorpio Sky and of course, you have Darby Allin, of course, with Sting. We'll get to that much later. And other people that are in dark that are not being used or utilized or being developed that you pick from these indies or sign from these indies. And then you're already going to Impact doing this. And they pose a question saying, do you feel like they should have done that a little bit later when they're able to establish those talents, bring them onto Dynamite, make something of them, and then do it rather than doing what they're doing it now?
They should have did it later. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is the smart decision. It's a promising move, is what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
if it's a situation of testing the water with working with other promotions outside of AAA, and to Eric's point, yes, Kenny Omega is the AAA mega champion. Even though he is, the world championships don't mean the same in Mexico as they do in America. It works in America's favor because you're conditioned to understand world champion, top guy. But a lot of Mexico's biggest names after a certain point didn't need the championship. One example being Mystico and CMLL before he got signed to Sin Cara. So it's interesting to see the trial, because if this is just one test, which I doubt it is, you wouldn't have done this if you wanted more than just a little crossover, because Don Callis is going to be sticking with Kenny Omega probably for a while, if you had to assume. Then I think the reason why they're doing this now personally is I think they're trying to do what you said, but at a faster rate. I don't know if it's the smartest move, but one of the things AEW has kind of benefited off of is doing things that keep people's attention, even if it's not that logical. And I think that in this case, they want to kind of mix the two, logic and the attention, in the sense that they want access to TNA's talent. They want access to some of what they have and mix it with their own and hope that all of the excitement of the crossover and all the different dream matchups you can get will trickle down and get everybody over at a certain rate. Now, it could work if they execute it right, because it's a very risky move, but it also could backfire very much as well. Like, when I originally heard this, I thought to myself, like, Eric, there are a lot of people between AEW and Impact that have crossed over before. The Young Bucks used to be Generation Me in TNA. Sting himself was one of the most prominent figures in TNA's entire history, from start to finish. You had people like, what do you call it? The Motor City Machine Guns, who would be a great matchup for a Young Bucks if they wanted to get some hype behind a big tag team matchup. You have people over there that kind of mesh. Like, can you imagine Matt Sydal teaming up with the Young Bucks? Not the Young Bucks, but teaming up with the Motor City Machine Guns to fight off, say, the Best
They
Friends in Orange
actually,
Cassidy. You know, you have
they actually, let me
what?
see if I can find it. They actually put up a graphic. I'm gonna see if I can find it on Instagram. They put up a graphic of possible matches that can happen if they do actually do this crossover. And to be honest with you, half of the matches that they have are quality matches, 5, 6, 7-star matches
I
that
mean,
can
think about
happen.
it, like Eric Young versus John Moxley.
Oh my God, that's a
Or
5-star
you
match
have a
right there.
situation of like Moose versus Eddie Kingston, who's also been in Impact
Another,
before. You have situations like, say, you want to have a Battle of the World Champions with Rich Swann and Kenny Omega themselves. That match would be pretty
I think I
spot
think
heavy.
I think that's where they're gonna go for that main event on Impact, which would be great.
And that match is going to be very spot heavy because both of them come from a junior heavyweight background in terms of how their style is conducted. So in their mind, they're trying to make the best out of the situation, and I don't think it's going to be the last partnership.
No,
And I brought it up in the group chat.
definitely not.
You guys don't get to see that, but I brought it up. It's only the beginning because they already did a partnership with the NWA to allow Thunder Rosa to appear and some of the NWA talents to appear. You think that's going to be the end? I mean, Nick Aldis has history with Cody Rhodes over not the big gold belt, but the 10 pounds of gold. And bringing the NWA through, they're trying to get more WCW old fans on TNT to kind of bring back that old audience, which was one of the reasons why rumored they wanted Sting on. Imagine bringing the NWA championship to AEW for a short period of time where you have a battle of the world champions. Who's the real world champion? AEW, similar to Impact, it feels like a product of WCW. Impact directly felt like one. We knew that. We could tell aesthetically, especially when you have Mike Tenay at the table. But even beyond that, it was part of the NWA body.
Right.
AEW being like the spiritual sequel to WCW, being on TNT, having people like Cody Rhodes at the helm trying to build it up, Dustin Rhodes at the helm trying to build it up. Like, they have a lot of ties together. They kind of feel like distant family members in a sense, where one was born a decade earlier than the other. It's like a big brother and a little brother kind of meeting up for the first time because they've been separated by age. So that's just the beginning. I expect Ring of Honor to eventually get a call up too, because Ring of Honor owns the
Yes.
rights to All In. That's a big deal. AEW's technically AEW's first ever event is
sorry.
Was
owned by
with Ring
Ring
of
of Honor.
Honor.
And
Exactly.
Ring of Honor is on right now, similar to MLW, which recently did their restart, which we'll get to later. Ring of Honor is having a reset button of its own in the sense that they just did a whole pure tournament trying to reestablish what Ring of Honor's identity was, going back to their root. It wouldn't shock me if AEW ends up working with them as well in the hopes that not only they can get access to their talent, but also get some rights back to the All In event itself, which started the whole like betting gimmick that AEW's had, betting on itself.
And that's something
And
that we can definitely table that at another time.
There's so many dream matches we can talk about.
We could be here all day talking about it. But stay on the topic before we quickly move on. And we need quick takes with this. Sting Sting was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, attraction on Wednesday night as we talk about AEW Dynamite in terms of the Wednesday Night Wars. Quickly, what was your reactions to Sting coming back to TNT for the first time in 19 years? And what do you think his role would be? And lastly, do you think that he'll be wrestling in a ring again? For me personally, I don't want to see him wrestle considering his injury again with Seth, against Seth back in 2015. But I do hope for me that he's just a mentor like Arn and Jake and Tully have been to other stars under the AEW umbrella. So
I'm gonna let Todd go first on this one.
Yeah, so
You've been letting me go first.
What's your quick takes on it?
My quick take: Sting looked like he was frozen in time. Sting looked like he looked essentially in 2015 when he first got to WWE. I don't know if he's in the same shape he was in because he was in a ridiculous shape. That's how much passion Sting has for this business. He turned the clock back 10 years just for that match with Triple H and the matches with Seth. I'm happy that he's there and he chose to do that himself, especially in the wake of Taker's retirement and the fact that he didn't feel like he was used that well in WCW, not WCW, in WWE by the accounts, which was his biggest fear, right? So it was cool to see him back on AEW. Winter is coming. The way they subtly alluded to a debut was dope. The snow, he looked badass. He has a dope new coat.
Game of Thrones is expecting a huge ass check for that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But
I would expect it too.
I think Sting's role, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it'd be very fitting, is Sting becoming an authority figure in AEW. Along the lines of a general manager or some sort of commissioner, because one of Sting's like prevailing character motivations was the fact that WCW was him. That was his identity. That was his home. And when the authority shook to a corrupt authority, he was willing to do whatever it took to kill the NWO, to kill the corruptness in WCW, which he managed to do. We're not going to talk about Wolfpack, but he managed to do under that original Sting character. And I think, and he's done it in TNA. We saw the hilarity of the Joker Sting thing and some of the awesome moments with that too. I'll never forget him talking about his suit being Versace. But my point being is, like, if he were to be an authority figure in AEW, I think it'd be him coming full circle as like, I fought for my company. I beat up the corrupt authority last time we were on TNT. Now I'm going to step up and take the role of the authority figure and lead us into a new direction. And with his mind, everything he's seen in the business, he can definitely help a lot of the alternative gimmicks like a Darby Allin. He can help a lot of the core wrestlers as a mentor like an Arn and whatnot. He's kind of a jack of all trades in this sense, in that he can help from so many different angles. So for me, awesome debut. Love how subtly it was done. Nobody saw it coming. Twitter froze for a good bit. And
I mean, we did see it coming.
We heard rumblings, but we weren't sure.
It was gonna happen.
But here's the thing: there's no reason to brag about it, Randy, Mister. I call everything, or you.
No, I'm not even saying I'm calling everything.
I know what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that
it's like, come on now.
Now, what I'm saying is that the way they did it for something that was pretty expected was excellent. Yeah. And I think the best way to follow up on that is for Sting to assume the authority role. You're not going to mess with a dude with a bat. You're not going to mess with a wily veteran like Sting. And that helps too, because he doesn't have to fight if he doesn't want to.
And he shouldn't.
If Sting wants to fight somebody, all he needs is his bat and some goons. Not to mention, what if Sting took somebody like Darby Allin under his wing, and you had Darby Allin pulling up with a Sting mask, throwing everybody off, and he's beating people down. Like, there's so many possibilities if Sting works in that role. So I think as an authority mentor role, authority on TV and mentor backstage is where he needs to be.
Personally.
Okay. How I feel about the whole situation with Sting is this. It's the same thing that WWE does. They bring you back for the nostalgia acts. They bring back the casual fan because at the end of the day, they're just taking another play out of WWE. They're taking another, like when Taker comes back, that's when people start watching WWE again. When The Rock comes back and makes an appearance, that's when people start watching WWE again. The casual fan, at least. It's the same thing that AEW is doing. They're trying to bring in the hardcore WCW fans back and saying, this is the alternative. This is what we are. Now, as far as Sting's role goes in AEW, he signed a multi-year contract. So I don't know what's really going to happen. I don't know if he's going to have a backstage role. I don't know if he's going to have, too much of an on-screen role, to be honest with you. But would I want to see him wrestle in the ring? No, absolutely not. Like, the man is 61 years old. He doesn't need to be in the ring. As far as being a manager, I would like to see him be a manager if that's the case. Even him in a authority figure role, I think, Ty, that's a great idea as well. So I agree with you. There's different avenues that you can definitely go down as far as keeping Sting at the forefront of your company and keeping him as one of the main attractions to have, but keep him far away from the ring. I think there's nobody in AEW that's willing to face Sting at this point in their career. There might be maybe one or two people that benefit from it, but it's not. There's no hype behind it. It's like if Sting was to come back during Survivor Series for Taker's farewell, that would be something that a lot of people would want to see. A lot of people still want to see Taker and Sting fight at WrestleMania. You might not want to see it, but there are people that do want to see it.
And on that,
whether it happens or not.
It was rejected multiple times, apparently, by WWE.
It was rejected multiple
years, which is...
Because you have to understand, because we do have to move on. The time when it comes to that has sailed for both men, regardless of age.
Absolutely.
We know that. I'm just saying that the fact that they could have did it in 2015 when Undertaker had that great match with Bray Wyatt.
They should have done it then. If they had an opportunity to pull the trigger then, it should have been in that time and in that time only. And after that, look, that's it. Because, after that,
that's it. 2015
right now
was the time to do it.
Or 2011, which
2011 would have been perfect. But now here we are, 9 years later, 2020. One's basically officially retired, and the other one still retired, but obviously, we will see, I guess.
Next topic.
Yes. Next topic. More importantly, let's switch to SmackDown because we're gonna save NXT for last. Let's switch to SmackDown, right? There was some stuff this week that ain't nobody care about because there's two ain't nobody care moments of the week. Baron Corbin and his jesters. Ain't nobody care. Ain't nobody care.
I hope these turn around and become hype moments so I can come back and tell you, Ren, you asked.
No, Baron Corbin will never.
Don't say that.
Never.
Don't say that.
Never. I will say it. I will say it.
All right. I'll wait for it.
I love Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks.
And what we're going and what they're doing. But ain't nobody care. Ain't nobody care.
She honestly, you want to know what? Carmella did kind of fluster Sasha during that whole exchange.
I understand
Sasha really
that.
didn't have too many comebacks.
But at the end of the day, ain't nobody care.
Go ahead.
Ain't nobody care. Because when you watch SmackDown, there's one thing that you care about. And his name is the Tribal Chief.
The head of the table.
The head of the table. But before we get to that, to the Tribal Chief, we do have to get to the fact that Big E got new music. Some people may hate it, some people may like it, but one thing's for sure. The powder is back. Okay?
I need the 5 count back.
The one thing that needs to come back is the 5 count.
If we get the 5 count, I'm in the title.
Nah.
It's a wrap.
No,
you don't need it?
Listen, man.
God damn it. No, fuck y'all. Let me tell you why. Look, I don't like being in a 3-person fucking podcast because I'm outnumbered by the foolishness now. Let me tell you why the powder coming back was dope. The entrance theme, I didn't get to hear much of it, so it's like I'll judge another day, right?
I think
But,
Wale did it, from what I've heard.
Wale did it.
Wale did it, and Biggie was in it as well, just like how Keith Lee is in his music.
Yeah, like
Biggie is in it as well.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I don't need Big E to revert back to 2013. I like the powder. I thought that was.
I don't
cool.
think he's gonna. I don't think he's doing that though.
No, but here's the thing. No, we don't need no. We could joke around about the 5 count coming back, but this is a different. This is a Big E that's learned a lot, and suplex is better, and needs to continue on his current string of momentum. We could talk about the 5 count coming back another day. Maybe if he turns heel one day, he could do that. But until then, we gonna enjoy this Big E right now, and I'm gonna enjoy him being in less tag matches. Because that's what I need. I need him in less tag matches because they just announced some matches for Tribute to the Troops recently, apparently.
It's teasing him and
That should
Sammy.
be going on right now.
Yeah, I think they're filming it, but I think they're teasing him and Sammy for the IC title for right now.
Which is good.
Obviously, Daniel and Tribal Chief will be tangling in January.
Now, I want more entangling of these stories. I would love to see Bryan and Big E again fighting for a number one contendership, and Big E gets the big.
Oh, that's coming. That's coming.
We get more of that. I care about that. Y'all, ain't nobody cares. I'll watch the small shit. All right. And that shit amounts to the big shit.
But when it comes to Camp Baron Corbin, ain't nobody care.
All right.
Tribal Chief. Because I refuse to call him by any other name.
Before we get to him, can we praise Kevin Owens for once, please?
Listen.
Kevin Owens
right now. Let me address him by his proper name before we talk about Mr. Owens. Kevin Steen, bruh. 1, you're undervalued. 2,
yes,
you're very, very valuable. 2 weeks ago, just last week, you were in NXT. This week you cut a great promo, not only disrespecting the Tribal Chief in front of the Tribal Chief, but cutting ass on main event Jey Uso.
Main event Jey.
Because I love that tagline. Yo,
main event Jey.
Kevin Owens, I think that there is something in the works for Kevin Owens going into 2021. Considering the fact that he's had as much as people may think he had an undervalued 2020, he's had a solid 2020 doing a lot of stuff that he's wanted to do. And has seemingly done whatever he wanted until, especially when the big moment, meaning the main title, comes to him with him and Roman. So I got to give praise to Kevin Owens and everything that he's done. He's definitely in my Fave 5 for Fave 5 for Superstar of the Year when we do the end of the year shit that we're doing. But the main event as well, the Tribal Chief, alongside his trusted associate.
What more can we say about this man? What more can you say about?
Can we say it under
Roman
10
Reigns?
seconds?
And yeah, we could listen. Best
I'm not doing this
of 2020.
I'm not doing this.
There's no
governing
body. You can stay out.
I'm giving you an out, bro. I'm giving you an out because you just said you don't like a 3-man podcast because clearly me and Randy both think alike.
Getting attacked over
3 men ain't enough.
No, I appreciate that, Eric, because Randy won't afford me that with his ain't nobody care. Because here's the thing, and I'm gonna be petty now because he wanted to be petty earlier. Is ain't nobody care. Every time Randy say ain't nobody care, it comes back to bite him in the ass. There was a time where Randy said, "I'm never gonna watch Impact again because it's trash. It'll always be trash."
Impact was trash.
Shut your
ain't
ass
nobody
up.
care about Impact back then. Ain't nobody care then.
You said that Impact will never come back. And all we've been doing
years. I was wrong. I admit that I was wrong.
No, you talked too soon. You talked too.
That was 4 years ago.
And you know what?
I'm gonna put this out there though.
Karma don't got a timeline.
I'm gonna put this
out there. Ain't nobody care then. I care now.
You ain't shit, man.
I'm not gonna praise Roman because I feel like he gets enough praise on this show as it is.
Man.
I'm gonna praise and I feel like Jey Uso gets a lot of praise as well. But I do like the tagline of main event Jey. I do like the fact
I like that tagline.
This is more of the. I do. I like the fact of the matter that this is more of one of the more interesting main events going into TLC. Because these guys we've said it already on the show already. These guys work magic in the ring already. Together, the both of them They put on matches already that hold up to this day. If you go back and watch their Hell in a Cell matches, who's getting new music? Jay and
Jay's apparently
Roman?
going to get new music.
I know they're working for Roman getting new music. I know that for a while. They're just waiting for the crowd. Most likely they're gonna debut at the Rumble because they said the Rumble is definitely gonna get fans. So, but what I do know, there's one small anecdote that hasn't really been talked about as it pertains to that match and the participants in it. There's a participant in that match that maybe you may not care for, but Otis, there was a promo backstage that he had earlier in the night with and this is my takeaway. With Kevin Owens. Normally Otis would be like, "Oh yeah," and talking stuff about sticks and big ass turkey wings and stuff like that. But
what?
but he had a good moment talking with KO backstage, and it was serious. It was more like, okay, I lived through the stakes and weights type of thing. I had my peach and fantasy. Now, like I'm really trying to get into the meat of who I am as a person. I think a lot of that has been you're starting to see the influence of Chad Gable, coming to fruition with Otis, and of course when he got his ass handed to him during that match, Chad Gable, following the match, was there to help pick up Otis and basically instill that same type of confidence into him that we somewhat saw earlier that night. Do you see something different in Otis, or is it just me?
I do.
Okay.
I hope it goes somewhere because a lot of people don't know Otis is actually a really good athlete.
Oh, yeah.
He has a wrestling background as well, which I think is one of the things him and Chad Gable kind of bonded over. And I feel like at this point, more so than ever before, when you have all these things going on in the world and you don't really have a gauge on who's really over and who's not, what's this and what's that outside of like the internet and whatnot. We've been saying it for a while. WWE needs to start taking more chances on their talent to see who sticks and who doesn't. And with a guy like Otis can, with his build, can be whatever you want him to be. We've seen how entertaining he can be in a comedic role, and now that's starting to wear thin. Now it's time to see what he could do in a more serious role. Same thing with Chad Gable, who, with his shoot mentality, probably could. He literally can mess up anybody on that roster.
He's Kurt Angle Jr. I mean, that's all I'm gonna say to it.
That's all it is. That's what.
And at this point, like, what do you have to lose? Like, we've been saying it all year. You give a chance to certain people and you get gold. MVP had no business being part of any of this 2020. He was about to retire
and he was gonna retire and go home and just chill.
A backstage agent
and what happened? You gave Apollo a chance and he actually blossomed into the role to where you saw potential in him doing more than just being U.S. champion. Now, granted, he didn't have the best end to the reign with the Hurt Business, but still, he showed a lot. And I think that at this point, as much as you're panicked on who to use, you're just as much in a position to use whoever you want. Like, as much as you feel like you're in the Mayday red zone, code red, you're also at a point where you can use whoever you want and see who's got it. This is a real proving period because with no fans, now you're really trying to impress. Now you're really trying to show what you're doing because the only opinion that matters is the brass now. So now you really have to push yourself and show them why you deserve to be here, barring injury, for the long run. And I hope that they do give Otis something. And it's an organic twist, too, because we've seen how shit his year has been. It started off on a high with Mandy, and then we just started wondering why this man was on TV. And one thing I mentioned before is I respect WWE a lot more if they play up to their nonsense and turn it into greatness and stick through the mud than to just forget about it and move on. Like all of that wasn't worth something. So go for it, man.
That's a good point. As we move on, NXT. As we are recording today, today is Sunday, and when this episode is released, probably between Monday or Tuesday, Takeover will be done. But Takeover is tonight.
What Takeover?
War Games is tonight.
Exactly.
War Games is tonight, and there is a great card As usual, I like to say NXT takeovers are undefeated. In War Games, this is their fourth one. I mean, everyone has been mwah. And tonight, of course, you have such great matches. You have Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, Cameron Grimes versus Dexter Lumis in a strap match. You have, you have the women who are going into the War Games. You have the men going into the War Games. You have so much that's going on during that night. Of course, the triple threat match for the North American title between Leon Ruff and my boy Johnny Gargano, and of course Damian Priest, the Archer of Infamy. Like, these are some great matches that we're seeing tonight, and of course we'll be sitting here all day talking about which match is going to steal the show, but my hot take for tonight, for my fault, my boy's calling. My hot take for tonight is that the women will steal the women's War Games will probably be better than the men's.
That's fair to say.
Probably. I have a hot take for tonight as we head into Takeover 32, War Games 4. Oh, that sounds like a great movie. Let's see. I think there are a couple talents that I think people should look out for tonight. The two that I really want to see what happens is Kyle O'Reilly and Oney Lorcan. I'm very curious as to how Oney Lorcan fits in a War Games situation, considering his Twitter looks like War Games with all those caps. But I'm curious to see how his style meshes in an environment like this. I wonder if it goes more street fight-ish with the cage and all the weapons they're going to definitely introduce, because that's what they've been doing. It's also interesting tonight because I don't believe there is a NXT World Championship match on this takeover, which I don't know if that's ever happened since it's been introduced.
No, this is the first probably.
So, we also have a very short number of takeover participants, because I think Team Shotzi and Team Candice, they each have 4 people, and then the Undisputed Era and Team Pat McAfee,
it's usually 5.
Yeah, they have 4. So it's kind of weird because Finn was involved in the takeover build, like he was there. So it kind of makes me wonder. It made me wonder what would have happened, or what is Finn's role in this? Like, is there going to be a 5th member introduced in McAfee's group that might come in tonight and help them win? Is Finn going to interfere and stop that from happening? Does he have a role on this card as he's still recovering? How does Team Shotzi and Team LeRae, like those we know are going to steal the show? Like, just look at the talent. I hope Shotzi comes out in one piece, because I'm sorry, some of the bumps she's been taking this year have had me thinking she was going to retire early a lot in 2020. It has been the year of Shotzi Blackheart, but for the love of God, it almost ended a couple times with some of the bumps she's been taking. So this match is made for her, but yeah, the 2 people I'm going to look forward to seeing what they do tonight are Kyle, after last time's takeover, breaking out a bit and showing people what he can do on his own. Maybe he'll have another standout moment. And Oney Lorcan, because I'm curious as to what the hell Oney Lorcan does in a War Games. That's just me.
You already know who I'm going for. I got the shirt on. My guys are going to show out. I got to go for the Undisputed Era. I'm sorry. We don't acknowledge Pat McAfee over here. Not on this side, at least.
What?
We don't acknowledge Pat McAfee.
I
don't acknowledge Pat McAfee.
What is your software virus? What's protecting your laptop?
I don't acknowledge him. I don't acknowledge that man.
You don't acknowledge McAfee. What's on your laptop?
Okay. I got it. But nah, I don't acknowledge Pat over here, man. Listen, shock the system. We're gonna take it. Another War Games. This is our match. Come on now.
Oh boy.
Adam Cole's gonna show out. Kyle O'Reilly's gonna show out. It's interesting though. The Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa match, that's really going to be very technical. I really want to see how brutal they're going to get with the grapples and everything. it's funny because when the last time Ciampa had a match at Takeover, he took a loss, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think that to that
And
point,
I think that's something that needs to happen.
I think Thatcher needs to win because if you look at some of Thatcher's matches this year, I mean, he's already lost to Damian Priest and Finn Balor. So I feel like in terms of momentum, he's had a great year. Don't get me wrong, the stuff with Matt Riddle earlier in the year, but I think he needs a couple more dubs, and a big win over Ciampa would help him out a lot in terms of solidifying him.
Because he's being considered for, you know, a NXT championship match eventually. He's going to be considered for that. I mean, Karrion Kross is going to come back, and it's going to be Finn and Karrion Kross. That's going to definitely happen. But Timothy Thatcher is going to be in that mix some way, somehow. So this match is really a proving ground for Timothy Thatcher. Tommaso Ciampa, I mean, we all know what Tommaso Ciampa can do, aka Pimp Walk. We all know what he can do. The women, as far as the women's war games go, you know, I think they're going to steal the show as well. I think the women are going to show out. This is, again, another person that needs to prove themselves, Ember Moon. This is her first takeover since she's been back in NXT.
If she doesn't eclipse off that damn cage.
Oh, if she does that, that's a.
Oh my
give
God.
Give her the NXT title. The
No,
NXT
her ass
title.
is going to explode. You know how hard that landing is going to be?
As long as it's not on the steel.
Randy had to think about that.
Yeah, as long as it's
he didn't know if he was going to be disgusted or turned on.
Who is this? Is Io
His face. Sorry, I
is
can't
Io
do it.
Shirai defending the title tonight?
No, she's in the tag match. She's in the
War Games match.
So there's no major title being defended outside of the North American title.
Outside of the North American title.
Every champion is involved.
Expect Damian Priest. Expect Damian Priest to turn back heel, if that can happen. That just might happen tonight.
He's starting to grow out his beard, which means every time somebody grow out their beard, that shadow comes in. You know what time it is.
That means
there's a change coming. There's a forecast coming.
I don't like how every champion's becoming Jason Momoa. I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
Hey, you gotta acknowledge him, man.
Roman and
excuse me.
Damian Priest are gonna have
what's his name?
Excuse me. Who?
Go somewhere.
I'm sorry. Now I don't know that name. I don't know who.
Back
Roman
to
is.
War Games.
Yeah, exactly, because I don't recognize that name no more. See, there's only one person that I recognize, and he sits at the head of the table. But I have to properly address him as such.
He needs to change his Twitter name to that. Just privately. If he changes his Twitter name to that, he has me for Superstar of the Year. Because he's just sticking to kayfabe at that point.
Yo, he's been back. He's been back for almost 4 months, and he's been killing it. It's like, yo, I'm about to steal the Superstar of the Year. Just like, yo, yank, gotcha, bitch.
Just like that.
By the way, the Slammies are coming back, so we actually might see them.
Yeah.
So then we need to do a Slammies episode as well. I guess we'll discuss that amongst each other. But getting back to War Games though, definitely Undisputed Era. If I don't know if this is a win for them or a win-lose situation for them, because they're such a credible team as it is already, and there's something in the main roster too. Yeah, there's something in the mix.
I don't think
you don't think they're winning. No.
I think they've been in every War Games match since it's been incepted. I don't.
Yeah.
Think
this will be number 4, and they've died in 3.
They won the first one.
Yeah, lost the last 2.
Yeah,
so it's possible they might win, but like, I mean,
and it 2-2, even it out,
or it could just go 1-3. But I mean, think of it this way: Triple H and Taker, the most associated names with Hell in a Cell, and they didn't win every single one either.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Fellas, it's been an incredible time spending time with you guys over the last hour or so. We did everything in terms of covering between Pat Patterson and AEW and things that we don't care about in SmackDown and Raw. But of course, NXT TakeOver is tonight, of course, as we're recording right now. Hey man, it's been a beautiful week in professional wrestling. We hope to see more. And of course, this upcoming week is going to be a lot more stuff that is going to keep you watching on TV. But with that said, It's your boy, the People's Champion. It's Kid Ty. And my tag team partner, Diamond Cutter. We are of the Backstage Brawl, and we'll see you later. Peace out.